Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. The mirror reflected an unfamiliar face. Delicate features, subtle makeup, and long lashes framing eyes filled with equal parts excitement and trepidation. Months of practice had led to this moment, the culmination of a journey that began with tentative steps and bloomed into a full embrace of femininity. Smoothing down the soft fabric of a floral sundress, manicured nails tapped nervously against toned thighs. The breeze from an open window carried the scent of spring, a fitting backdrop for a rebirth of sorts. Today marked the first venture out into the world as her, no longer confined to the safety of locked doors and drawn curtains. "You've got this," came the whispered affirmation, voice pitched higher than usual after hours of vocal training. A deep breath, a final adjusting of a wig styled into loose waves, and trembling fingers reached for the doorknob. The hallway stretched endlessly, each step on kitten heels echoing like thunderclaps. Shoulders back, hips swaying with a practiced sway, all those YouTube tutorials on walking like a lady replaying on a mental loop. The elevator dinged, doors sliding open to reveal an empty car. A small Mercy. Ground floor. The lobby loomed ahead, sunlight streaming through glass doors that suddenly seemed as impenetrable as fortress walls. A group of businessmen strode past, their chatter fading as one glanced over with mild curiosity. Heart pounding, she willed herself forward, focusing on the click of heels against marble. Fresh air hit like a slap, carrying with it the cacophony of city life. Cars honked, people bustled past, a child's laughter rang out from a nearby park. For a moment, the world spun dizzyingly. Then, like a switch being flipped, everything snapped into focus. She was just another face in the crowd, a woman going about her day. The first few blocks were a lesson in hyper-awareness. Every glance felt loaded with potential judgment, every accidental brush against a passerby, a possible revelation of her secret. Gradually, though, the tension began to ebb. No one was staring, no one was pointing. She was just existing. A quaint cafe caught her eye, its outdoor seating area dappled with shade from overhanging trees. Emboldened by her successful foray so far, she decided a celebratory latte was in order. The line moved quickly, and soon she found herself face to face with a smiling barista. "What can I get for you today, miss?" The simple question, so casually delivered, sent a thrill through her entire being. She'd been called Miss before, of course, but always in controlled environments, supportive friends, understanding shop assistants who'd been tipped off beforehand. This was different. This was real. "A vanilla latte, please. Grande." Her voice came out steady, the careful modulation paying off. The barista nodded, tapping away at the register. Name for the order. A moment's hesitation. The name chosen so carefully, practiced in front of mirrors and whispered like a prayer. "Emma! Coming right up, Emma!" Finding a seat, she allowed herself a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. The sun warmed her skin, a gentle breeze played with loose strands of hair, and for the first time in public, she felt truly herself. A group of women at a nearby table caught her attention. They were laughing, heads bent close in animated conversation. One of them gestured wildly, nearly knocking over a glass, which set off another round of giggles. Emma found herself smiling, drawn to their easy camaraderie. "Grande vanilla latte for Emma." Rising gracefully, thank you, endless posture drills, she collected her drink. As she turned back to her table, she locked eyes with one of the women from the laughing group. The stranger smiled warmly, raising her own cup in a mock toast. Emma returned the gesture, feeling a rush of belonging. Sipping her latte, Emma pulled out her phone, fingers flying as she texted her best friend and confidant. "I did it! I'm out having coffee and no one's giving me a second glance. Well, except for this nice lady who smiled at me. I feel amazing." The reply came almost instantly. "Yes, girl! I'm so proud of you. Enjoy every second of it. You've earned this." Bolstered by the success of her cafe excursion, Emma decided to push her boundaries further. There was a boutique just down the street that she'd always admired from afar, its window displays a tempting array of feminine delights. With a deep breath and a squared set to her shoulders, she set off. The shop bell tinkled merrily as she entered, announcing her presence to the handful of other browsers. A saleswoman approached, her smile professional and welcoming. "Can I help you find anything today?" Emma's carefully cultivated voice didn't waver. "I'm just browsing. Thank you. Although..." Her eyes landed on a delicate silk scarf, its pattern a swirl of blues and greens. "That's lovely. Oh, excellent eye." The saleswoman plucked the scarf from its display. "This just came in yesterday. Would you like to try it on?" Nodding, Emma stood still as the woman draped the scarf artfully around her neck. The silk was cool against her skin, the weight of it grounding. Turning to face a nearby mirror, she gasped softly. The colors complemented her complexion perfectly, bringing out flecks of green in her hazel eyes. "It suits you beautifully," the saleswoman said, her tone genuine, "like it was made for you." Emma's fingers traced the edge of the scarf, marveling at how something so simple could make her feel so complete. "I'll take it," she decided, the thrill of making her first clothing purchase as her true self overriding any budgetary concerns. As the saleswoman rang up her purchase, Emma's phone buzzed with a notification. It was a reminder for an event she'd been simultaneously anticipating and dreading for weeks. A beginner's ballet class at a local dance studio. She'd signed up on a whim, drawn by childhood dreams of graceful movement and the promise of a supportive, all-female environment. With her new scarf carefully tucked into her purse, Emma set off towards the studio. Each step felt lighter now, buoyed by the accumulation of positive experiences. The world hadn't ended. People saw her as she truly was. She belonged. The dance studio was housed in an old converted warehouse, its industrial exterior belying the artistic haven within. Emma paused at the entrance, steadying herself. This would be different from her previous interactions today. This involved changing clothes, close physical proximity, shared vulnerability. "You've come this far," she murmured to herself. "Don't back down now." The reception area was a whirl of activity, lithe bodies stretching, parents dropping off eager children, the faint strains of classical music drifting from practice rooms. Emma approached the front desk where a kind-faced older woman greeted her. "First time?" At Emma's nod, she continued. "Welcome, dear. The adult beginners class is in Studio C. Changing rooms are down the hall to your left. Do you need to borrow any equipment?" Emma shook her head. "I brought my own, thank you." She'd spent hours researching proper attire, eventually settling on a simple black leotard and pink tights. The shoes had been trickier. Finding point shoes in her size had required a specially placed order. The changing room was mercifully empty when Emma entered. She changed quickly, years of practice allowing her to navigate potentially revealing clothing with practiced ease. Standing before the full-length mirror, she took in her reflection. The leotard hugged curves, both natural and carefully crafted, the tights elongating her legs. With her hair pulled back into a neat bun, she looked right. Emma wasn't the first to arrive at Studio C, but she was far from the last. Women of various ages and body types filtered in, chatting amiably or stretching at the bar. A few smiled at her in greeting, and Emma found herself smiling back, tension easing from her shoulders. The instructor, a petite woman with the posture of a queen, clapped her hands for attention. "Welcome, everyone. I'm Madame Rousseau. We'll start with some basic warm-ups at the bar. Find a spot and we'll begin." As they moved through pliés and tendus, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. The movements were challenging, yes, but there was a meditative quality to the repetition. She focused on her form, on the stretch and flex of muscles, on the way her body responded to the music. "Excellent extension, Emma," Madame Rousseau called out, making a minor adjustment to her arm position. The praise sent a warm glow through her chest. She was being seen, truly seen as herself. During a water break, the woman next to her struck up a conversation. "First class?" At Emma's nod, she grinned. "Me too. I'm Olivia. I always wanted to try ballet as a kid, but my parents couldn't afford it. Better late than never, right?" Emma's carefully modulated voice came easily now, warmed by genuine enthusiasm. "Absolutely. I'm loving it so far. It's so freeing." Olivia nodded emphatically. "Right? I feel like a little girl playing dress-up, but in the best way possible, like I'm finally allowing myself to embrace something beautiful." The words hit Emma like a physical force. She blinked rapidly, fighting back unexpected tears. "Yes," she managed. "Exactly that." As they moved into center work, Emma found herself hyper-aware of the shared femininity in the room. Women of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds united in their pursuit of grace and artistry. She watched as they encouraged each other, laughed at shared stumbles, celebrated small victories. For the final combination, Madame Rousseau divided them into small groups to perform for each other. Emma's heart raced as she took her place, but as the music swelled, something shifted. She wasn't pretending anymore. She wasn't trying to fit in or pass or be accepted. She was dancing. She was expressing. She was free. The combination ended, and Emma found herself breathing heavily, a wide smile stretched across her face. The other women applauded, and Olivia gave her a thumbs up from the sidelines. In that moment, bathed in the warm studio lights and surrounded by the energy of shared accomplishment, Emma felt a profound sense of belonging. As they cooled down and stretched, conversations bubbled up around the room. Emma found herself drawn into a discussion about favorite dance movies, contributing her own passionate defense of center stage. The easy back and forth, the laughter, the shared experiences, it all felt so natural, so right. "Ladies, excellent work today," Madame Rousseau called out as they prepared to leave. "I look forward to seeing you all next week. Remember, practice those plies." In the changing room, Emma wiped away sweat and reapplied subtle makeup with practiced ease. Olivia, changing nearby, caught her eye in the mirror. "Hey, a bunch of us usually grab coffee after class. Want to join?" For a split second, old fears reared their head. What if they figured it out? What if she slipped up? But the warmth of the invitation, the genuine inclusion, overpowered those doubts. "I'd love to," Emma replied, her smile reflected back at her. As they walked to the cafe, Emma found herself in step with her classmates, both literally and figuratively. They chatted about sore muscles and ambitious goals, about day jobs and family drama. She contributed where she could, years of observing and studying femininity, allowing her to navigate the social dynamics with growing confidence. Settled around a table with lattes and pastries, Emma felt a sense of coming home she'd never experienced before. These women saw her as one of their own, not because she'd fooled them, but because she was living her truth. The careful research, the meticulous practice, the years of longing, it had all led to this moment of genuine connection. "So, Emma," one of the women, Lena, she'd have to work on names, asked, "What made you decide to try ballet?" The question gave her pause. How much of herself should she reveal? But looking around at these open, friendly faces, Emma made a decision. Not the whole truth, perhaps, but a piece of it. "I've always been drawn to traditionally feminine things," she began slowly. "But for a long time, I felt like I wasn't allowed to embrace that part of myself. Ballet represents freedom, I guess. The freedom to be graceful, to be beautiful, to be fully myself." There was a moment of silence, and Emma's heart raced. Had she said too much? But then Lena reached out and squeezed her hand. "That's beautiful," she said softly. "I think a lot of us can relate to feeling like we're not allowed to be feminine, or that femininity is somehow lesser. It's so important to reclaim that." The conversation flowed from there, touching on societal expectations, the power of movement, and the joy of finding community. Emma contributed where she could, soaking in the sense of sisterhood that permeated the group. For the first time in her life, she wasn't an outsider looking in. She was part of something. As the afternoon wore on and women began to depart, Emma found herself lingering. Olivia, gathering her things, paused. "This was fun! Same time next week?" Emma nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it." Walking home, her ballet bag slung over one shoulder and the scent of coffee still clinging to her clothes, Emma felt a profound sense of peace. The city bustled around her, but she moved through it with newfound confidence. She wasn't trying to blend in anymore. She was simply being. Unlocking her apartment door, Emma caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror. The woman who looked back at her was flushed with exertion and happiness, eyes bright with possibility. She smiled, and her reflection smiled back. No hesitation, no doubt. "Hello, Emma," she whispered, and for the first time it felt like her true self was answering. Emma's phone buzzed as she settled onto her couch, still riding the high of her transformative day. It was a text from her best friend. "How'd it go? Give me all the details." Grinning, Emma began to type, her manicured nails tapping rapidly against the screen. She recounted the cafe, the boutique, the ballet class, and the impromptu coffee outing. As she wrote, she felt a swell of emotion, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. "I'm so proud of you," came the swift reply. "You've worked so hard for this. How does it feel?" Emma paused, considering. How did it feel? There was joy, certainly, and relief, but there was something else, something deeper and more profound. She typed slowly, carefully choosing her words. "It feels like I can finally breathe, like I've been holding my breath for years, and now I can fill my lungs completely. I'm not just existing anymore, I'm living." She hit send, then leaned back, letting the weight of the day wash over her. Her muscles ached pleasantly from the ballet class, a physical reminder of her newfound freedom. The silk scarf, draped over a nearby chair, caught the late afternoon light. A thought struck her, and Emma rose, moving to her closet. She pushed aside hangers of masculine clothing, remnants of a life that no longer fit. In the back, hidden away, was a box she'd been too afraid to open until now. With trembling fingers, she lifted the lid. Inside lay carefully folded dresses, blouses, and skirts. Shoes she'd never dared to wear outside. Jewelry that had only ever adorned her in the safety of her locked bedroom. She ran her hand over the fabrics, marveling at how they no longer felt like costumes, but like possibilities. One by one, Emma began to hang the clothes in her closet. Each item represented a step on her journey, from furtive online purchases to tentative forays into thrift stores. As the masculine clothes were pushed further aside, replaced by flowing fabrics and bright colors, Emma felt a sense of rightness settle over her. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Olivia from the ballet class. "Hey, just wanted to say it was great meeting you today. Looking forward to seeing you next week." Emma smiled, warmth blooming in her chest. She typed back a quick reply, already looking forward to building these new friendships. As she set her phone down, her gaze fell on a framed photo on her bookshelf. It showed a younger version of herself, before the transition, before she'd even admitted to herself who she truly was. The person in the photo looked lost, uncomfortable in their own skin. With gentle hands, Emma removed the photo from its frame. She didn't want to erase her past. It was part of her story, after all, but it no longer needed to be on display. She tucked the photo into a drawer, making a mental note to replace it with something that reflected her present, her future. A rumble from her stomach reminded Emma that she hadn't eaten since that latte hours ago. Usually she'd order in, too self-conscious to venture out for dinner. But tonight felt different. She was different. Decision made, Emma changed into a casual dress and sandals. She'd passed a cute little Italian place on her way home from the dance studio. The thought of sitting alone at a restaurant would have paralyzed her before. Now it felt like an adventure. The hostess greeted her with a warm smile. Table for one? Emma nodded, following her to a cozy corner spot. As she perused the menu, she found herself people-watching. Couples on dates, friends catching up, families celebrating. The restaurant buzzed with life. And here she was, part of it all. Her waiter approached, notepad in hand. "Good evening, miss. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The casual use of miss still sent a thrill through her. "A glass of red wine, please, and I think I'm ready to order." As she waited for her food, Emma pulled out her phone, opening her rarely used social media accounts. She'd been too afraid to post much before, worried about being recognized, about facing judgment or ridicule. But now, she snapped a quick selfie, angling the camera to catch the warm lighting of the restaurant. Her face was bare of any filters, her smile genuine and relaxed. With only a moment's hesitation, she posted it, adding a simple caption, "New beginnings." The likes and comments started rolling in almost immediately. Old friends, distant relatives, even a few coworkers she hadn't been out to yet. The responses were overwhelmingly positive. "You look so happy. Gorgeous. I'm so glad you're living your truth." Emma felt tears well up, but she blinked them back. This was a happy moment, a celebration. She raised her wine glass in a silent toast to herself, to her journey, to the road ahead. As she savored her meal, a perfectly al dente pasta dish, Emma let her mind wander to the future. There were still challenges ahead, she knew. Not everyone would be as accepting as the people she'd encountered today. There would be difficult conversations, potential rejection, moments of doubt. But for the first time, those challenges didn't feel insurmountable. She had a support system now, her best friend, her new ballet classmates, and a growing network of people who saw her for who she truly was. She had the strength that came from finally living authentically. Emma finished her meal and signaled for the check. The waiter returned, a kind smile on his face. "How was everything?" "Wonderful," Emma replied, her voice steady and sure. "I'll definitely be coming back." As she stepped out into the cool evening air, Emma took a deep breath. The city stretched out before her, a landscape of possibilities. She could go anywhere, do anything. For the first time in her life, she felt truly unlimited. Her heels clicked against the sidewalk as she began to walk, each step taking her further into her new life. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant hues of pink and orange. Emma tilted her face up, basking in the fading warmth. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges. There was so much still to explore, so many aspects of femininity to embrace fully. But tonight, in this moment, Emma was content. She was herself, wholly and completely. As she rounded the corner towards her apartment building, Emma caught her reflection in a store window. The woman looking back at her stood tall, confident, radiant with inner joy. Emma smiled, and her reflection smiled back. No hesitation, no doubt. "Good night, Emma," she whispered. And as she continued on her way, she knew that tomorrow would bring another day of living as her true self, another step on the beautiful journey she had only just begun. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.